Nature on a massive ball mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sun, heat, subhanallah. Nature. This is what many people sadly in the world today think popped into existence from nothing. But if I was to pull out this iPhone and say to those same exact people that this iPhone popped into existence from nothing, they would think I was crazy, because this iPhone has features which indicate a designer: a camera to take pictures, a screen to navigate, a charging port to give power to the phone so that we can use it. All these features have been placed intentionally in order for us to make use and benefit from it, and they all indicate a designer. Are we therefore surprised that throughout the Qur'an, Allah points us to different features in the universe so that we can reflect on them and realize that there's a designer? In one particular verse, Allah points out 6 different features that we're going to reflect on one by one, and that is going to prove to you why there must be a designer behind this universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says 1400 years ago, "Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ard." Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth. And this is now where Allah is going to list the features. Feature number 1, وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ, and the alternation of the night and the day. Feature number 2, وَالْفُلْكِ الَّتِي تَجْرِي فِي الْبَحْرِ بِمَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسِ, and the ships that sail the sea for the benefit of humanity. Feature number 3, وَمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مِنْ مَاءٍ فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا, and the rain that Allah brings down from the clouds, bringing to life the earth after its death. Feature number 4, وَبَثَّ فِيهَا مِنْ كُلِّ دَابَّةٍ, and He scattered throughout this earth all kinds of creatures and animals. Feature number 5, وَتَصْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ, and the scattering of winds throughout the earth. And finally, feature number 6, وَالسَّحَابِ الْمُسَخَّرِ بَيْنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ, the clouds that drift between the heavens and the earth. لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ, are signs in all of these features for people of intellect. Whenever Allah calls you by your intellect, know that there are gems to extract. And so let's go through these features one by one so that you can arrive at the conclusion that because this iPhone must have a designer, so too must this universe. If you really think about it, me and you are sat on a massive ball that is so big and so heavy that it has its own gravitational pull that stops us from falling off the sides into space. That's why wherever you are on this ball, you stay stuck on the surface. And this very ball that I'm speaking about, Earth, spins about its own axis at a speed of almost 1,000 miles per hour. That's 3 times faster than the fastest car on the face of the planet today. And this spinning is what allows us to face the sun some parts of the day and face away from it other parts of the day, which gives us the day and the night. And the day, of course, as you know, is where we go out and we connect with others, we make a living and we enjoy the nature around us. And the night is when we go back home, we rest, we chill with our families, we bond with them and recharge our batteries for the next day. This is all created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can you imagine if it was always day or always night? This is part of the mercy that Allah has created, and it's all because this massive ball is spinning about its own axis. Now, as this earth is spinning, it also tilts towards the sun for certain parts of the year and tilts away from it for other parts of the year, which gives rise to the 4 seasons that me and you know very well: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And each one of these seasons has its own characteristics in its weather, its own landscapes, snow, sun, heat, color. All of these things come about because of the 4 different seasons, and this variety was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that me and you can enjoy. Can you imagine if the entire year was just the same all year round? Again, all of this is a mercy and a manifestation of the creative power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, as the earth is spinning about its own axis and tilting towards and away from the sun, it's also orbiting around the sun at the perfect distance so that it's not too hot for us to not be able to survive and not too cold for us to freeze to death. And the speed at which it's orbiting the sun is a whopping 70,000 miles an hour. Yes, that's what we're experiencing right now as we speak. That's the same as traveling around the earth 3 times every single hour. Can you imagine? It's because of all this movement, the spinning, the tilting, the orbiting, that allows us to be able to calculate and track time and use clocks and calendars so that we don't get confused. Subhanallah. How the earth takes takes 365 days to do a whole orbit around the sun, and the Earth spins about its own axis for 24 hours, which literally lays the foundations for us to use clocks and calendars. And subhanAllah, everything that I've mentioned in this section is captured in one incredibly powerful verse that was mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 1400 years ago. وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ آيَتَيْنِ فَمَحَوْنَا آيَةَ اللَّيْلِ وَجَعَلْنَا آيَةَ النَّهَارِ مُبْصِرَةً لِتَبْتَغُوا فَضْلًا مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَلِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ. What does Allah say? Allah says, and we made the night and the day two signs. And so we erased the sign of the night, allowing the day to shine bright so that you can seek the bounty of your Lord, and so that you can calculate the number of years and also calculate time. Everything in this verse we've just basically mentioned in this entire section and the science behind it, and this was mentioned in the Qur'an 1400 years ago. Subhanallah.
You see this tiny little rock that weighs probably just a few hundred grams? If I was to just throw it into the ocean like that, it sinks instantly. But we're currently sat on a boat which weighs almost 1,000 kilograms, if not more, yet it's floating, allowing us to carry people, to carry resources, travel the oceans and travel the seas from place to place, meet different communities, to conduct business and to do all sorts of things. Now, if you think about it, there's actually a lot of water on this earth. In fact, 71% of the earth's surface is just oceans. You might wonder, okay, if everything is meticulously balanced by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why is there so much water? Did you know that all this water you see is the very reason why me and you are alive? Water is actually very, very good at absorbing heat. If there was less water on this planet, then the earth would become too hot for us to be able to survive. And not only that, did you know that the oceans on the earth are the very reason of 50% of the oxygen that we breathe? Inside the oceans, there's this little tiny plant called phytoplankton, and that photosynthesizes, producing most of the oxygen that me and you breathe. And that's why if the earth was to reduce the amount of oceans it had, we would suffocate to death. All of this is a manifestation, a demonstration of the perfect planning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His mercy allowing us to be alive on this earth. And let's not forget the incredible amounts of variety that we can extract as resources from these oceans. The seafood, for example, that many people love, the leather, the dyes, the chemicals, the pearls, and the list goes on and on. But the point is, there is one verse in the Qur'an that gathers everything that I've mentioned in this one verse. Listen to this absolute miracle that was revealed 1400 years ago. وَهُوَ الَّذِي سَخَّرَ الْبَحْرَ لِتَأْكُلُوا مِنْهُ لَحْمًا طَرِيًّا. Allah is the one who subjected all these oceans so that you can extract from it tender seafood that you can eat. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَتَسْتَخْرِجُوا مِنْهُ حِلْيَةً تَلْبَسُونَهَا, that you can extract ornaments and pearls that you can wear and beautify yourself with. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَتَرَى الْفُلْكَ مَوَاخِرَ فِيهِ وَلِتَبْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِهِ, and you see the ships plowing through the water just as we're doing right now. Allah is the one who created it like that so that we can seek from His bounty and enjoy traveling, enjoy meeting communities and doing business and so on and so forth. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so that you may be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at how beautiful all of this is. All of these signs just from a ship sailing through the sea.
This orange is from Pakistan, whilst this avocado is from Mexico. One is bright orange and sweet, whilst the other is dark green and bitter. And if you look around me, I'm surrounded by fruits and vegetables and produce of different colors, shapes and sizes that have been picked and imported from every corner of the earth. And it's not just fruits and vegetables that come from trees. You also get many other things like herbs and medicines, fuel, paper, cotton, rubber, materials, all sorts of things come from trees and plants. And the most fascinating thing about all of this is that every single one of this produce that I've mentioned all originated from a seed. And if you look at seeds generally, they all pretty much look the exact same, and they're planted in a soil which is just one soil and fed by water which is one water, and from it sprouts incredible complexity just from a tiny little seed stone, one water and one soil. Subhanallah. And so there's no wonder why Allah says in the Quran, يُسْقَى بِمَاءٍ وَاحِدٍ, it's fed with one water. وَنُفَضِّلُ بَعْضَهَا عَلَى بَعْضٍ فِي الْأُكُلِ, we prefer some produce over others in terms of taste. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ, indeed in this are signs for people of intellect. Whenever you go to the shop, just remember that everything you see started from a seed that then was fed with a bit of water on the same soil, and from it sprouted trees, some of them the size of buildings, which are all picked off and imported from every corner of the earth so that you have all this variety. Subhanallah.
You see, on this planet, there are at least 8.7 million species. And of those 8.7 million species, we've only discovered 2.1 million of them, meaning that there are 80% of species that we are yet to discover on this tiny little planet that we're on. And so there's no wonder why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an, وَيَخْلُقُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. He creates that which you do not know about. Of the 20% of species that we do know about, what you find is that there is great amounts of creativity within them. Of them are microscopic, such that they cannot be seen with the naked eye. Of them can fly. Of them they slither. Of them they swim. Of them they walk on 2 legs, on 4 legs, even more legs as well. There is so much creativity and variety in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you look at every single species individually, you'll realize that every single one of them has been given unique characteristics and properties that allow them to thrive as a species in their ecosystem, which shows you the creative power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah says in the Quran, وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَ كُلَّ دَابَّةٍ مِّن مَّاءٍ. Allah created every living thing from water. Now, if you think about it, this first came down 1400 years ago, but only because of recent science we have found out that actually every living thing is made from cells, and 70 to 80% of cells are made from water, subhanAllah. So it's a miracle. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمِنْهُمْ مَن يَمْشِي عَلَى بَطْنِهِ. Some of them they walk on their bellies. وَمِنْهُمْ مَن يَمْشِي عَلَى رِجْلَيْنِ. Some of them they walk on 2 legs. وَمِنْهُمْ مَن يَمْشِي عَلَى أَرْبَعٍ. Some of them they walk on 4 legs. يَخْلُقُ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ. Allah creates whatever He wills. إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Indeed, Allah is able to do all things. Watch it. Watch it. So definitely, the scattering of creatures is a miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum. Next section.
Wind, something that is invisible, but we seem to deem it as insignificant. But the reality is, wind is actually so incredibly essential, and it is literally a wonder. You see, when the sun starts to heat up parts of the earth, the warm air starts to rise, creating areas of low pressure. But in other parts of the earth, where the colder air is and the sun doesn't heat it as much, it starts to sink, and so it creates areas of high pressure. And so you have these pressure gradients around the earth, which allows the wind to fill the gap to try and balance it out, which creates the shifting of the patterns of wind. Subhanallah. But the question is it important? Do we really need it? Absolutely. Without wind, there would be no life. Did you know that? It is because of the wind that the pollen and the seeds from different trees and plants spread around the earth, creating all this variety and beauty that you see all around me. And as you know, these plants and trees are the reason why we have oxygen to breathe. And not only that, these plants and trees, they create the produce that we spoke about earlier in the video. Reason number 2 is that wind distributes the heat around the earth so that it's not extremely hot or not extremely cold, such that we cannot survive. And it's because of this distribution, because of the wind, that all the ecosystems in the earth can thrive. And finally, number 3, even though there's many more reasons that I can mention, is that wind is the reason why rain comes down. Without the wind, there are no clouds. Without the clouds, there is no rain. And without the rain, you cannot have the earth be this alive. And so as you can see, subhanAllah, the wind is the very reason why me and you are alive today. And so there's no wonder why Allah refers to the wind in the Qur'an as a mercy. وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَ الرِّيَاحَ بُشْرًا بَيْنَ يَدَيْ رَحْمَتِهِ. He is the one who sends the winds ushering in His mercy, and that is your Lord, the most merciful. Subhanallah.
This cable car that we're in is about 1,000 kilograms in weight. Yeah, you already know that if one of those strings snapped, I would fall to my death and I would not be here making this video today. Yeah, if you look into the sky, the average weight of a cloud is 500,000 kilograms. That's 500 times the weight of this cable car. Yeah, subhanAllah, they just float there, moving peacefully through the sky. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Allahu alladhi rafa'a as-samawati bighayri amadin tarawnaha. Allah is the one who raises the sky, raises the clouds without any barriers that you can see. Now the question is, how exactly do these clouds just suspend in the sky without falling on top of our heads? The answer is incredible. You see, every single cloud is made up of billions of tiny little water droplets. And as the sun hits the earth and warms up the earth, the warm air starts to rise and push up on these water particles, if you like. But at the same time, gravity pulls them down. And it's because of this perfect balance between the gravity pulling the water down and the water vapor pushing the droplets up, do the clouds suspend in the sky, giving the illusion that there's this invisible barrier holding them up, subhanAllah. And as the wind blows the cloud through the sky and more water vapor condenses and makes the cloud heavier and heavier, there comes a point where the water droplets become too heavy for the water vapor to support it and push it up, that it starts to come down as rain, bringing the earth to life.
Let's now bring our attention back to this simple, pathetic little iPhone. If this little iPhone must have a designer because of something like a camera, how about the universe that has countless more features that are infinitely more complex, that are all working together and are meticulously balanced so that me and you can sit here, live and breathe today. So with all of that said, I leave you with one more verse that will inshallah wake you up. سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق. We will show them our signs throughout this universe and even within their own selves that indeed this Qur'an, Islam and Allah is the absolute truth. So turn to your Creator before you return to your Creator. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.